Chip Zdarsky and Marco Checchetto unleash Kilgrave onto New York as Wilson Fisk orders the Purple Man into the city to cause as much chaos as possible in order to lure out the heroes, specifically Daredevil, so he can enact his vengeance against Matt Murdock. Chip Zdarsky builds out one hell of a penultimate issue for Devil's Reign, taking it in a direction I saw coming a mile away, but one that I still found myself getting really surprised and excited over. I really like that with the knowledge that Fisk has now of Matt Murdock being Daredevil, he just doesn't give a single fuck anymore and will rip everything apart to make sure Matt Murdock dies. And he's done taking things cautiously and calculated like he has been up until now, so I can't wait for that final showdown in the next issue. Mike also being the one on the receiving end of Fisk's brutality was kind of obvious. He's posing as Matt Murdock, so of course Fisk will go after him, and it's even more so especially since the character needs to probably be retired after Zdarsky puts the toys back in the box for the upcoming renumbering of the Daredevil book once he begins writing that again. The Norn Stone part of the story is also mentioned heavily, and if you know Zdarsky, Fisk is somehow going to get a hold of that stone, making him even more of a threat. I just love how Zdarsky and other writers can set stuff up ages ago like Mike Murdock, not bring it up for a really long time so that you kind of forget about certain things, and then pow, he hits you with it and its return in a really compelling way. Marco Checchetto continues to make Zdarsky's scripts sing even louder with fantastic visuals, specifically Mike being beaten up by Fisk. It was just pure rage and violence and happened so quickly that Mike had no idea what was going on. The big battle in New York between the Avengers, the Thunderbolts, and all of the Ox was really quite cool, and I love Kilgrave's zombie-like army and just how it's very World War Z with just waves of controlled people being sent at the heroes. Devil's Reign issue 5 was another towering achievement of an issue that, while I predicted pretty much everything that happened in the issue, it still wowed me with how masterful its delivery was through a sharp script and a beautifully rendered series of artworks. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10. Devil's Reign issue 5 finds Wilson Fisk beginning to remember everything he was forced to forget, that Matt Murdock is Daredevil. He becomes angered at the violation Matt subjected him to all so he could deny that he was sloppy at his job. Wesley soon shakes him from the thoughts, telling him that the purple children have been found by the Thunderbolts and they are in a residential building. Wilson doesn't care about casualties, wanting the children now. At the apartment, the purple children are all looked after by the old lady who took them in, watching as the drones go about their business outside, knowing that their powers won't work on them. There's a knock at the door and one of the kids answers it, finding US agent waiting for him. The kid uses his powers, but thanks to the dampeners, they don't work, allowing Electro to shock the residents of the building through the walls, zapping the old woman and the kids. Securing their targets, the Thunderbolts move out, but they are confronted by Jessica Jones and the Champions, who wants to see if US agent will try and do that with these kids. The Champions begin rescuing the children as Jessica tells US agent Fisk wants them to control the city. John says that the kids are a danger to themselves and others as Abomination arrives, confronting Jessica, who wonders if the villain isn't above all of this. Emil says that the current mayor has information that he needs, as some soldiers ambush Jessica, slapping a power dampener on her as Abomination tells her all he needs to do is uphold the law by any means necessary to get what he wants. Spider-Man manages to swoop in and grab Jessica before she is crushed by the Abomination, but she doesn't want to leave. Miles knows that if they don't escape now, they are all dead, as elsewhere, Mike Murdock visits Butch, who is busy planning something, stopping the meeting as Mike enters the office. Mike finds he's planning on hitting back at the mayor, and Butch reveals that their revenues have dropped 80% since the drones took to the sky, so he has to do it. Mike reminds him that they had a plan and this was supposed to be bloodless, but Butch tells him it's not personal since there is too much riding on his actions as the kingpin now, and keeping their hands clean was a fairy tale. Mike thinks that he's got a way to set this right, telling Butch that he's not really real and it's a long story, but he has a magic stone called the Norn Stone, having hid it at Matt's place. He knows it still has some power in it and he's been keeping it as an insurance policy, but they need a manual on how to use it, and they could use it to fix this. Butch isn't happy since this is why he's angry at his father, since it's always superhero nonsense and he's not going to fly around with some magic stone wearing a costume. He knows Mike never took this serious and he's going off to run run a business and he'll leave Mike to play with his stones. Wilson meanwhile is told by Doc Ock that the children they caught have been drained of their powers and they should be enough to control the voters in Fisk's election. Wilson doesn't care about the election now, intriguing Otto as to what his grand plan is now, since he still can't get past his neural blockers, even with the supercharged Kilgrave. Fisk asks if Otto knows why the idiot Spider-Man keeps beating him. It's because Otto is short term and he can only think of himself and not beyond it. Fisk gains control over the Hulk Ock, having him smash Otto out of the lab. Fisk frees Kilgrave, telling him that he is going to kill Matt Murdock now, but he wants him and everyone to know what happens next will be Daredevil's fault. Using his power, Fisk orders Kilgrave to kill them all and burn the city if he has to. Under Avengers Mountain, Luke demands to know where Jessica is, but his wife tells him that she is fine and Abomination is a Thunderbolt now. Luke knows that it's too dangerous out there as Spider-Man gets the replicator working again, knowing that the team said the Purple Man disruptors came from Emma Frost, wondering if they should trust them since the mutants aren't exactly right at the moment. Luke knows that they work fine as Matt asks how his campaign stop went. Luke found it rough and they need to get rid of Purple Man's influence if they are going to have any shot at winning the mayoral seat. Joseph, one of the purple children they managed to rescue, says that the Purple Man needs to be killed since that's the only way you stop his type of evil. Daredevil says they won't be killing him since that's what separates them from the villains. They save lives and taking one will eat at your soul and haunt you. He knows that they will stop Kilgrave and Fisk as Kristen calls Daredevil, telling him there has been an uprising at the Myrmidon, knowing their clients are involved and she is going to rope Matt into helping her deal with the legal fallout. Daredevil doesn't think that's a good idea, but Kristen knows that Matt will have to step up since they all have to do it since it's getting bad out there and downtown has turned into a riot. The multiversal Ottos meanwhile regroup with Doc Ock as the mind-controlled Thunderbolts and their army confront the villains, telling them to stand down as the Avengers arrive, battling both teams. Spider-Man tells Otto that he's not high on his list of current priorities, asking if he's seen the Purple Man around. Kilgrave soon shows himself, saying that he's happy to talk as long as it's a group conversation. The villain takes control of hundreds of people within the city, sending them like a zombie horde at the heroes. Mike meanwhile heads home to find his apartment has been ransacked, calling Butch, whom he thinks was looking for the stone. Going to the hiding place of the stone in the vent, he finds it's still there, deciding to try and figure out how to use it. Suddenly Wilson Fisk grabs him, thinking that Mike is Matt, as he throws him against the apartment walls, telling him that this was all his fault. Mike thinks that he's there because of Butch as Wilson smashes him into the wall, calling him Daredevil, and he was pretending to just be blind and a hero while he violated all of their minds. Raising a fist, Wilson knows that he should have done this years ago as he smashes Mike Murdock's face in, beating him over and over and over as Kristen appears in the doorway, watching in horror as Mike is murdered.